Good morning, everybody. There we go. Everyone's caffeinated. All right. Great start to the morning. Director Raghavan, wonderful to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, and welcome
Thank you
to
for my
OFN40.
bracelet.
Absolutely. I have my bracelets on as well. You know, hopefully everyone has their bracelets. Certainly, good morning, Madam Director, and welcome to OFN40. Let's give a round of applause for Director Raghavan. Now, Pravina, I've had the wonderful opportunity to get to know you in serving on the Community Development Advisory Board. For many of the folks here, they know you are the director of the CDFI Fund, but may not have had a chance to get to know a little more of your personal story. You've had wonderful experiences in economic development to community investment. Let's start with just telling everyone who you are.
Sure.
Some favorite things that you've worked on and what attracted you to this role.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say congratulations on 40, and thank you for serving on our board. He's the chair, so everybody should give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
OFN board members and the OFN, thank you guys for having us here. But I actually have a question for you. I'm almost finished with my bingo board, and I wanted to know how I could get the last square, because it says meet someone with the same exact job title. I don't think that's fair, because there's nobody else here who could be the CDFI Fund director. So I'm going to leave that for you to figure out how to get me my prize. It's not fair. It's rigged. I mean, come on, it's not fair. Well, it's been an interesting journey for me to get here. As many people probably know, right before this, I came from the Department of Commerce. I actually started out my career at AT&T, the old one that looks like the Death Star, that one. And I moved to Europe, and I was all of 20-something, and I started doing a mergers and acquisitions deal and helping tech companies at that time, which were brand new, to grow and become bigger. I started my own business. My father's first words were to me, "I am not your angel investor, thank you very much." And then when I made money, he's like, "I'd like now to get back on the ground floor." I'm like, too late. So I did all that, and then I came back to the United States. I lived in Europe for almost 10 years, and my sister, who's a civil rights attorney, sat there and said, "How do you make a difference?" I said, "Oh, I help these people, right? I help all these businesses." And she said, "Well, you know, you could do that by working for the government." And I actually laughed at her, and I said, "Oh, yeah." I actually went online and applied to the SBA for their district director job in New York, one of the largest loan districts. I have never written so many essays in my life. I had to write 9 of them, and I got the job, and I was very shocked. So I was like, I don't know who the other candidates are, but this will be interesting. I had the honor of being the SBA director right in the middle of the 2009 crisis for small business lending.
Wow.
So I got there, and it was very, going from private to the government, understanding all what has to happen. And one of the things we did, which I think is very memorable, is small business lending was down. So I actually said, why don't we just match CDFIs and other lenders with these small businesses? And they were like, okay, let's do that. So I called it, let's like Match.com for small businesses. And we were expecting maybe 150 people. We ended up getting almost close to 750. So if you go to ever be in downtown New York, it's Federal Plaza, you'll know that get in there is like a maze. So we were able to do that. And then fast forward during the pandemic, I want to give a shout out to my CDFIs from the New York Ford Loan Fund. They helped me. I mean, Aisha's one from True Fund and CRF and Axion and Grow America. They took the call when I called in the middle of the pandemic, being the head of state of New York, small business. Most of our companies didn't get PPP idle. A lot of my CDFI brethren were like, we're trying. And we said, okay, we're going to help you raise capital. And that's what the state did. And they came into a room, a virtual room, and they put their egos to the door and said, all right, let's build this. And within a few months, we launched a fund. And that $100 million fund has now made those guys that year do 7 times more lending than they've ever done. And they've just continued growing. But it was their I would say, ability to come in and say, yeah, let's keep our egos, let's do what's best. And the pandemic was a great way for all of us to force and say, this is where we need to be. And so that's the power of the CDFIs. So when this job came up, I trolled on usajobs.gov. I want everybody to know I applied again and wrote essays, and I got it. And this has been a job that I think we can make a difference. And I love the momentum. How do we go forward? And that's really what I want to figure out is how do we go forward as an industry and truly as an industry together as a partner for everybody here.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I enjoy the pathway, particularly having experience in local government myself, so I understand certainly the connection in leveraging CDFIs. For everyone here, I think you all may be aware that there's modernization happening with certification, right? I know we're not talking about that at all. It's not a topic of interest, really. I'm glad we can laugh, thank you. Director, I know you joined in March, and I know this has been certainly a topic of conversation. And the fund, through all the challenges and so many years, certainly of build up and working towards modernization, this has been naturally an area of focus for you early on. What's been refreshing, I will say, certainly with something of this enormous impact, coming in, certainly listening to some of the perspective of not only members, but some of the trade associations and everything else to understand, how we can make it better, how we can be sure that the modernization certainly achieves the mark. And so I want to just give you some space to talk through not only what are some of the things that you've lifted up insight-wise since March, because I know you've made some changes and things from application and other elements of it, but also what's to come. So just give you the space to talk to the family here about your insights there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my badge, if you get to see it later, it says no whining, so that goes to anybody who wants to ask me what's particularly on the application, because I actually don't know without Amos in front of me. But no, so I joined in March. We were scheduled to go live in May, and I asked the same question, and people have worked with me throughout know I ask this all the time. Okay, what's the plan? What's your backup plan, and what's the risk mitigation? Explain to me where we are, why we're doing this, all that stuff. And the team had great answers, and I said, are we ready? And someone said, I don't think we are. And I said, well, then that way we can't go out to industry, right? Like, I'm not gonna have a process that's gonna break before we can get there. And then my team can attest, and I don't know if Mitchell's in the audience, but Mitchell can attest that poor guy, had to walk the CDFI director line by line through the certification application and have me ask, why? Why would we do that? Wait, but that doesn't make sense. No, really? What were you guys thinking? And poor guy, no, this is the policy, this is where we go. And so the team's been great with all my whys, because that's constantly what I'm asking. Why are we doing this? And I asked one question in the beginning. I said, how many of you actually have run a CDFI? How many run businesses? Don't even have to be a CDFI. Some of the things we've asked are just not practical. So let's go back to practice. We're the CDFI Fund. Our first and foremost is to make sure that the taxpayers have a way, we have a way of using taxpayers' money to fund CDFIs. CDFIs are in our title. And I remember my first board meeting in April, Michael Schwack asked me, are you a strict constructionist? And I looked at him like, I don't know what that means, but no. And he goes, well, we're all worried that you're just gonna bounce, you're gonna get rid of everyone. And I said, well, I'm not gonna bounce 1,500 CDFIs. I don't have a job. So no, our goal is to get you in. But we have to make sure the right people are doing the right things in the right places, because I also am beholden to the taxpayer. So trying to do that. So we put out new FAQs on September 6th. We also pushed back the windows. The first thing we did in June is push back all the windows so it coordinated with your year-end date so that you didn't have to do 2 filings. We just pushed out for the early submitters. We are starting October 28th. I got this in the certification. It's opening on the 28th for the early submitters. And the key fact for those guys is you're certified until December 31st, 2025. Everybody else is going through their general submission starting on March 7th. And the whole point of this is to learn. And as we learn, we're going to put out new FAQs. At the end of this week, we're putting out more. Those first early submitters, thank you in advance. We may have glitches. We will have glitches. We will have things that we're like, that didn't work. But the feedback is going to come back, and we're going to be able to refine it so that in March it can go as a process. Because my first thing is to get certification done, and then to use that data to be able to build an investment business case for everybody to use, not just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Everyone's got a different path on how they want to grow. The CDFI Fund is there. We see everybody. And the interesting thing about this new certification process is we are going to see everyone's transactional level data that's a state and time. How do I convince other investors from other industries to come in and invest alongside us?
That's great. Certainly great feedback. So there will be more engagement.
100%.
There will be some testing, some learning, some perspectives shared that will help refine the process. Sounds a little familiar. Some things we've talked about certainly this week. So thank you for that. It's certainly refreshing to hear that. I am going to read directly from my notes here.
Okay, go ahead.
Because the fund has been on a bit of a tear since September. So the fund has announced a historic level of financial assistance awards through the CDFI and NACA programs, made $5 billion in new markets tax credit allocations, indicated also $10 billion in the next allocation, issued $500 million through the bond guarantee program. It's like $2 million short.
Yeah, $2 million short. 498 record year, first time
record
ever.
year, and OFN was fortunate as well to participate in that. That's another historic high. Execution of a double round of the BEA program as well. That's a wonderful year.
Yep.
In and of itself. So, how are you going to top it next year? What can we look forward to? What can we look forward to?
Well, I actually have an announcement today. It just dropped. The Capital Magnet Fund is going to do over $246 million. We made the announcement of the awards today. 48 organizations for over 26,000 affordable housing units. So that is great. Big applause to everybody. It's a record year. I thank the American taxpayer for having the benefit of putting it there. I also thank the staff. The CDFI staff have been working overdrive, both with the $3 billion that we got with the pandemic era, then coming into this, having record-breaking, really record-breaking even applications. For example, our CDFI NACA, which we did just recently announced the financial assistance. We had over $1.5 billion of demand for a $400 million program, and $100 million was just for FA. So if you think about that, it shows the gap is still there. But we review everything and go there. I know our TA awards, our technical assistance awards, are going to be announced later this year. Later this fall. I just want to clarify for everyone, because this falls from September to December for the federal government. We don't follow other calendars, so it will be this fall. We are also going to announce the new market tax credit, opening up that $10 billion round this fall. And then hopefully the BGP will go out. And then for a small dollar loan program, we're going to do the double round again. We had such success over that. But that's all the programs we currently have. We'll continue. Hopefully Congress will pass their budget in time. We can get the money out. But the other thing we did was, and the secretary announced this, it was actually really nice to be with her to announce the $100 million affordable housing program that we're going to use with ESIP proceeds. So ESIP went out, amazingly, thanks a lot of the CDFIs and MDIs who took the deposits and is working through we get the proceeds back. And so we can develop programs. And the first one we're going to try to use this $100 million affordable housing. Also, a grant for cyber technology and helping technology assistance for CDFIs. We're going to have an RFI go out later this fall to get the input on that. And then also, fortify our CDFI NACA program, because it is really trying to get into those areas. So more ESIP money comes in, we can design more programs and to look at that. And like I said, the impact of that is what I'm trying to make sure that we can show where we need to get more from my funders.
Got it. And you alluded to certainly some elements of growth within the industry, but also, from a demand standpoint, but also limitations with funding. So we've had a historic rise in the number of CDFIs. We're at 1,500, over
close to 1,500, yep.
Close to 1,500. So certainly congratulations to the fund, even for being the 30 years of support behind that. But naturally as well, there's always budget limitations and demands for congressionally allocated funding. So just you shared certainly refreshing perspectives with me about how you see the fund's role, certainly in helping to bring in resources into the industry. Just want to give you some space to talk through certainly your vision, direction for the next couple of years, where you see the fund playing a role in helping to aggregate resources for the industry.
Thanks for that. So Harold gets to hear me harp on about these things, so I appreciate him giving me stage time for this. I'm a my background has always been to build bigger partnerships. So I usually come into programs that are on the spurt of growth, even even my federal career, and move them to the next level. And I say that because there is so much partnership that can happen. And we even had this discussion yesterday. I said, it was interesting. I said, oh, I watched your video. It was really great. Anybody thought of the CDFI Fund as a partner? And I think your reaction was really good. You said, oh, you're not asking me like, do I see 30th anniversary here or there? You're saying fundamentally, philosophically, what is the role of the CDFI Fund? Yeah. And it really is one. Yes, we are the certification, right? But we are not a regulator. We don't regulate any of these industries. We provide a certification that you can use either to obtain funds from us or obtain from other states or even go and raise it with banks. So yes, that is a compliance part of what we do. We are a funder. We are going to be a complier. No one ever tells any of JP Morgan's, sponsoring. They don't tell JP Morgan, I'm sorry, are you going to check my balance sheet? Because that's, I don't think that's a good idea. Of course, you're used to someone to be a compliance. But the other thing is we're truly a partner. And that's what I was saying. I want to change that dialogue because my job is to get more investment in here. I am obviously have a impediment called the U.S. Congress that decides what it wants to do. So I can only advocate so much through the president's budget. Hey, we need more. And I never have the conversation of, no, you don't need more, but so does everybody else in the federal agencies. But what I can do is be that voice to help the platform for other stakeholders. Why is this not a risk? Why should people be coming into this industry? I think the FirstNet was great. This is the least risky investment that some other people do. Right. As I said, I started my career in M&A, mergers and acquisitions, and hedge funds were like, oh, no one should be in a hedge fund. Now almost everybody's in a hedge fund. So how do we get everybody into a CDFI, right? I don't think my goal would eventually be, we didn't need the CDFI fund because everybody's got access. We're in a great world. I was saying only time I've ever seen that is Star Trek. They don't have money. I find it very suspicious, but they don't have money in them. So to get to that Star Trek utopia, what do we got to do? It might not be in 30 years. We will have another conference. CDFI Fund will probably be here. But how do we get more people so that the gap gets lower? And the only way we can do that is partnering together, truly believing that the CDFI Fund isn't a evil dictator. I heard on the bus ride on one of the things, they kind of made fun of the CDFI Fund, not realizing that we're on the bus. So just warn, we are here.
Well, specifically and literally, don't get kicked off the bus.
Just saying, yes.
Well, I know we only have a couple minutes left. We've talked a lot this week about the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And certainly, we're all gearing up as an industry to not only prepare for this opportunity, but to effectively deploy it, leverage it for the greatest impact. Just share your perspective as well about where you see the role of the fund, certainly in helping not only to equip and empower CDFIs, but also just to work across federal agencies, being the agency that knows CDFIs best, and yet these programs are basically placing the success of GGRF and other programs on the shoulders of CDFIs. So we'd love to get your perspective there.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to the EPA. We gave them data sets. We've been very open with them, even helped when they were structuring the program, and we continually talk to them. It is the EPA's program, right? And so I just want to say it's not the CDFI funds, it is the EPA's, and we are willing and to help. In fact, they came to our Community Development Advisory Board. We had a great panel on GGRF. They came and they spoke and gave their vision, and we'll continue to support them. And one of the things we did in our transactional level reporting is to put climate, is a new category. It's coming out, the climate funding. And we based that on a Treasury paper that we had done through Treasury, our Office of Financial Inclusion, to just try to figure out how to get even a norm when you're reporting, right? Because everybody's like, what does climate mean? And if you ask 20 people, you'll get 20 different answers. So how do we try to say this is the standard we should do to be able to help make sure if you're talking to EPA and the CDFI Fund, we're asking for the same. And we've been working with a lot of agencies to do that in the background. I know you guys are going to hear from the Federal Home Financing, FHFA later this afternoon, and the Federal Home Loan Banks, and we're partnering with them as well, just to sit there and get a working group to get through those collateral issues. And I think our role, as I was saying, is to be the partner, to be that voice, to say here is we can represent them because we see them. we know what they're doing. This is why we want to talk to you and try to figure it out. But as you can imagine, federal agencies have egos, so it is a little harder to sit there and tell. It's not like I think at a staff level we're willing to work, but secretary to secretary level, that's always a different thing. And so I think that's where you get, hey, this is my territory, this is what we're going to do, but we are going to support it. Right? We're here. We want to make sure that this is very successful, because this is a moment in time that if it's not, this will be the first time that we don't rise to the occasion, and I want us to do that.
Absolutely. Well, last bit of perspective, I just want to say, certainly I think with the discussion today, it's okay for us to say bingo.
Bingo, yes.
I know it takes a lot, certainly. I know you have a lot on your shoulders to manage on behalf of the industry, so I just want to say thank you. Because I know it's a lot to manage. This has been a hell of a first year, and I know we're still getting through you getting to actually 1 year next year, but it's been certainly a busy couple months. So can you all join me in thanking Director Raghavan?
Thank you.